Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV podcast 550. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, not quite alongside Johnny V, but in in the same area with you in spirit.
You're in the same time zone. That's about it, buddy.
That's true. Opposite side of the country. I am. Well, I don't know what's considered the U.S. anymore. I get confused. But anyway, I believe I'm about as far south. I guess technically there's some parts of Florida and other places, but I am near the Gulf shores of Alabama, over in the Fort Morgan region, which is something new to me. But
Have you
some family
stepped
and
into the
yeah,
Gulf of America yet for the first time?
I guess technically I did. Yeah, 2 days ago. Yeah, yeah, played a new game that is called bucket ball because if there's one thing we are so good at, it's taking, including disc golf, obviously, is taking one form of a sport, taking another component of another sport, and then combining them to then make it an entirely new sport or activity, backyard or beach or whatever it might be. You're literally throwing like hacky sacks, slightly bigger than hacky sack, like beanbag balls into buckets. So it's a lot like beer pong, but on the beach with sand buckets. Almost the exact same idea. Uh,
Okay.
but yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
played it alongside the Gulf of Mexico, America, or whatever, however you want to refer to it. But did play it there a couple days ago. Yesterday, it was raining down here, and today, Johnny, I don't think you have to deal with this with your son and your daughter, but the one of the dumbest things all kids on the planet, not all kids, most kids in America do that is another level of stupidity is, including my own, is they chase the UVs. So they don't care about whether it's just going to be sunny or not specifically, or whether or not it's going to be hot or not. They literally check the UV index. That's what excites them. Obviously, the higher the UVs, the better they have a chance at getting skin cancer. And I know it sounds like I'm preaching to the choir as a guy who gets sunburned and is often red and doesn't wear a ton of sunscreen. That always comes as a byproduct of me just being outside doing disc golf related stuff. For them, and this is not particular to just my 14 and 16-year-old daughters, this is a nationwide thing. You can even
So
find moms
they
making fun of it on TikTok.
they specifically look for the UV index and
Yes.
not just
Yep.
stick your head out the window and be like, it's nice and sunny
Nope.
out. Like
Nope.
and then
Nope.
they
The excitement is
purposefully
tomorrow. UV of 8 tomorrow. It's a UV of 8 tomorrow. Like, I'm not kidding. Anyone that is a parent that is watching us right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. If they have tween or
and
teenage daughters,
and does that mean to them that they need to like sunscreen up or the opposite? Like they're not going to do
no,
that.
no. It depends on how smart or stupid they want to be.
Like I can
There was sunscreen
understand
applied.
I can totally understand looking at UV
Yeah.
index next. Like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a UV of I don't even know what the range is. 8. That means I really should wear sunscreen. Like that would make sense to
Mm,
me for
or I should
something.
really make sure I go out and get my tanning on today. That's how they look at it. A UV of 8 is like, that's a big deal. So
Wow. No, and thankfully,
anyway,
as many know, I do not have to worry about that because my son, in general, has no idea about social media stuff. He doesn't care about that. And second of all, while he does tan, um, unlike myself and my daughter, who more or less are pasty white people who just turn bright red, wither, blister, burn, and peel. If you want to throw it back to Stabbing Westward's debut album back in the 90s, that is, yeah, that's no, I can't even imagine. I can't even fathom it,
so
Terry. Thankfully,
yeah, well,
I don't have to worry about that.
something that I never thought I would be talking about is the UV index in a quote unquote positive way. I'll use that in air quotes because It's that's what the kids care about these days. All right, so what we care about, episode 550, a little housekeeping, or getting us on track. Episode 550, Holyn Handley is going to be joining us in probably about 30 to 40-ish minutes. She was very gracious and kind today and said, yes, I'd love to make time for Smashbox and join you guys. And then she had something come up and she said that she's going to just hop on a little bit later. So we're absolutely happy and excited to have her. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about the Open at Austin and the Disc Golf Pro Tour Plus event that went down this weekend. Plenty of conversation to be had there, although I don't care to drag it out any more than it's already been dragged out, because we all know what we're talking about. And that'll be about it. It might be on the shorter side tonight. I know we say that all the time, and then 3.5 hours later, we're finally saying goodnight. But tonight, things might actually be a little bit on the shorter side. There was an announcement last week, very specifically, that I am excited to be heading to Jonesboro. I'm going to start that trek tomorrow. I'll be heading up to Jonesboro, where we're going to have, at the Disc Side of Heaven, we're still going to have the Jonesboro Open, and it sounds like there's some new names that might be adding themselves even to that list. I don't want to break too much news there, but it sounds like the MPO field is filling out a little bit more, and the FPO field already looks incredibly solid. I know Kristen Lett is already signed up to play there, along with, I think, Rebecca Cox, along with Kat Murch in her home state. I think Katrina Allen was on the list at one point, or is right now. So super excited that I'll be over there taking on the MPO side of the coverage over in Jonesboro. And then Go Throw is about 2 hours away over at Persimmon Ridge. Go Throw just announced their feature cards tonight as well, I believe, for both the feature 1 card and then the feature 2 card that Ace Run Productions will be covering. So might be an off weekend, but you're still going to see some golf recorded. You're still going to have some post-production. You're still going to have some drama and excitement and everything else. I guess that leads to one of the first questions, which is, we've really built in this model of having some weeks off, whether it's an extremely long travel commute from from the middle of the country to the edge of the country or something of that nature. But in this case, the players are going from Texas ultimately to the Music City Open in terms of the Pro Tour stops. And then this weekend, they have the weekend off again. There's not a scheduled DGPT event this weekend. Good, bad, indifferent that we still see a ton of players still go find action to play?
Well, it's early in the season, so I think the ambition is still high. You're out on the road. Even if you're an established player, we'll say like a Calvin or a Gannon or the Isaacson, I almost said Isaacson, the Robinson brothers. I think that there's still this eagerness to play. You're getting warmed up. The first major is coming up in a few weeks. You kind of want to just keep that momentum going if you're playing well. Now, maybe if you're not playing so well, you might want to take a break. But I see this as early season excitement versus anything else. And there are some events that people just, quote unquote, we've always done it. Jonesboro. It's been on the tour forever. First year it's off the tour in quite a while. And so there's still a draw to it. There's still a familiarity to it. There's still some excitement that you might want to go. There's Persimmon Ridge, which is new and exciting. I think there's still a draw for some of these. Now, you take this exact same weekend and move it into September, half the players, I bet. Half the players. Most of them probably kind of are like, I'm good. It's September. I'm going to get ready for those big events coming up. We're cool. But early season excitement is what the name of the game is, which is why I think we're seeing a lot of these players kind of one or the other.
Okay, I agree. It's I love seeing that they have the option to have off, and we're now 3 events into the Pro Tour, 2 being in Texas, and then obviously our opener at the Supreme Flight. So having the weekend off is good, but a lot of our young guns, that, like you said, that eagerness, that freshness, so to speak, ready to go and take on that. Also then creates a really interesting scenario for our for the spectators and the fan base, because we have players spread out everywhere. We have a handful of a couple of top rated players at a Throwdown the Mountain. I believe over at the Pot of Gold in New Orleans area, you have a bunch of good players there. Matteo obviously being the hometown guy there, but you have someone like Matteo and a handful of other really good players there. Obviously, a pretty good field at Persimmon Ridge. We've got a handful or more 1,000+ rated players that are going to be at Jonesboro. So this is one of those weekends where you're not going to find all of the top talent at one spot like we will the week later when they're all at the Music City Open, but kind of it gives that unique blend of kind of local that local hustle, so to speak, for players to go out and play other events, maybe just because they like them or because it's in their backyard, like a few of these players, or maybe it's not in their backyard and they don't particularly have a draw to it, except for the fact it's just golf. It's organized competitive golf somewhere, and that's enough for them to come play it. So pretty excited to see how things are going to go. Let's real quickly, let's run down. I feel like the MPO
Sure.
Results. You usually have those at the ready. So let's just run real quick through our top 10 or so MPO results and the corresponding storylines.
Yeah, so this was a very exciting final round. We saw it was really the Discmania duel is what it boiled down to. Nicholas Antala, Kyle Klein, and Gannon Burr were all fighting for first place with basically 5 or 6 holes to go. And that doesn't even include Mr. Ezra Robinson, who made a really late run and just ran out of holes in 4th place. There weren't enough holes for him to catch up to them.
Keep birding.
To keep birding. He was too far ahead. He had shot himself, I would say, too much of a hole in the earlier rounds that he just, even though he shot a 12 down, the hot round of the event, got himself up 5 places into 4th place. It wasn't enough. But Nicholas and Kyle end up kind of passing Gannon when he takes a bogey on 14. At that point, it was going to be tough for Gannon. Gannon had to birdie out if he more or less wanted to catch them. And he got hole 18. They didn't, but it still wasn't enough to get into the what ended up being a 2-way playoff between Kyle and Nicholas. And Nicholas does what Nicholas does on hole 18. I mean, the dude is he's got that. There's a special place in his heart for Austin and hole 18 because he threw a phenomenal drive both times for the regular round and the final round. The final round and the playoff round. In the final round, his approach shot ended up hitting a tree kicking left, which caused him to go into a playoff, but he was set up for the win on 18 and then just, caught that tree, ended up kind of by Kyle. And then they go to the playoff and Nicholas again just pures the drive. Just a phenomenal throw. He had that thing on lockdown. And this time he was able to complete the approach to get himself within the circle for the final putt. Kyle unfortunately left himself short. I think Kyle looked like he had like a 40 or 50 footer through some trees, wasn't able to complete the putt. Nicholas walked up and just like a year ago, canned a putt, celebrated the Finnish cowboy is what is what people are deeming him now. I think it was picked. I think that nickname was picked last year, but this just solidifies it. It really nails it down to he's got more cowboy hats than he needs.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know what the and how different. I didn't compare any pictures, but I've got to assume that the hat is relatively similar.
Yeah, standard
year after year. They might have to start thinking about like a slight variation in the style, just for the fact. I mean, you're still some kind of cowboy hat, but maybe just different shade or something like that. Because at some point, I mean, if the guy's got 6 of them, I mean, I guess liken that to Music City Open. He's going to get a slightly different guitar every time, that Simon keeps winning. So you have to come up with a slightly different hat. I mean, like you said, I don't know how many cowboy hats are too many, since you nor I are necessarily wearers of cowboy hats. But if one's not enough, two definitely has to be at this point. So he's really going to need something different, if he or I mean, at this point, maybe he just looks at it as, I've got a Finnish cowboy hat and I've got a U.S. cowboy hat, and now he doesn't have to pack one every year, right? So he can just leave one in Finland, leave one here with other people or whatever. I don't know. I mean, those are good problems to have. Is
I mean,
too many trophy cowboy hats.
if you ask him, I bet he wants one for every day of the week. I mean, let's be honest.
That's a good call.
At some point, maybe like next year, before the event, do they just size the cowboy hat to his head? I mean, because putting it on him versus putting it on Calvin, probably two different head sizes. So
probably.
I think that's just the standard now. Or maybe they get a very special blue and white one, for his home colors.
Yeah, really dig into those roots. As Doc Zen says, you got a work hat, an out socializing hat, a church hat, a fancy hat. I mean, these are again all good problems that Niklas will possibly have to contend with and have to deal with. Nothing for nothing. You put it on him, it looks appropriate. Especially with the brown shirt he was wearing.
Yep.
I mean, he settles in real nice to that. So congratulations.
I was going to say, you could have snagged him out of South Oklahoma, out of Texas, anywhere, and that just fits. Like when Simon holds that guitar from Music City, it looks right. The Finnish cowboy, it just looks right. Put it on his head, man. Put it on his head.
So I would love for someone in the chat, because again, Johnny, I may have owned 500 hats in my life at this point. That's probably not too far-fetched, although I rarely wear them like I used to. And Johnny definitely doesn't know this answer from experience. So somebody tell us roughly, what's the value on a hat like that? Is that a $400 hat? Is that a $40 hat? And not that I'm trying to make any judgment. I'm just simply curious, because I don't want to downplay some of these trophies, just like we've seen, from Music City, and we know how those guitars can be, worth thousands of dollars, obviously. Somebody could be looking at that hat that knows what they're talking about, because we don't, and saying, man, that's a $1,200 hat. I don't know how, I would assume you would know by looking at it, if you
examined it a little closer. I would have a hard time. I'm maybe there's somebody, but looking at the hat from where it is, you're probably thinking, it could be a knockoff. It could be anything like that. But I hope he got a really nice hat box as well, because you need a hat box to travel with that. You can't just, granted, you could just put it on and drive all over, just kind of sitting there. It's just, as you're pulling into Music City, because Music City, that's a great place where that hat would fit in as well. I mean, you're looking at, so he can just wear it the whole trip.
Is there any chance that he is doing some kind of open mic night in Nashville?
No.
Singing something, maybe playing a borrowed Simon guitar, and walking around somewhere down in Nashville performing, because that would be epic.
No, but we'll ask Holyn when she comes on. I'm curious as to if she has a go-to karaoke song, seeing as how she's going to be at Music City, and whether the hat would fit for whatever.
She has to.
I
have no doubt in my mind.
I have no doubt that she has one, but I'd love to know what it is. So let's go down a little bit further down the leaderboard here. Like I said, Ezra Robinson climbing his way up to 4th place. 5th place, Anthony Barella. He fell down 3 spots. He started out so poorly. Honestly, it wasn't working for him. And he just never really kind of got into a groove on that final round, only shooting a 3 down. He was in position. He would have only, quote unquote, only had to shoot a 10, which is doable on that course in those conditions in order to do it. I mean, we saw Gannon with an 11, Ezra with a 12. Adam Hammes, who took 6th place, shot an 11. Hammes is having a good March. What a run. SFO, Waco, this, like, he's number one, and I know it's very early, so we're not getting into this too much. He's number one on DGPT points right now. Just overall, your best player this year. That's what that says.
Yeah, I mean, open this tournament, followed, maybe one of the biggest statements was following up the Waco win with tying for the hot score with Klein on the very first round of this tournament. Obviously, wasn't able to maintain throughout the weekend, but yeah, like you just said, it's hard to overall argue with the consistency that he's shown up with so far in terms of his finishes.
No doubt. Seventh place, a three-way tie between Sullivan Tipton, Paul Macbeth, and Richard Wysocki. Paul and Ricky both played together second round on the chase card. They ended up falling 2 spots from 5th to 7th. And again, that was one of those things where Paul wasn't catching, or Ricky, they were not going to catch the leaders at 34. They'd have had to shoot 16 down. It just wasn't going to happen. But it's good to see both of these guys competing, like chase card, lead card. We've seen Paul, he's been in it.
Yeah, yet again. Yeah. Yeah, and as a quick side note to all of that, I want to say it definitely... I guess we'd have to go back even to maybe the episode of having Ricky on after signing with Discraft. I think it shocked a few people, myself included. It put a big smile on my face to see the practice round that took place that was recorded and put up on Ricky's channel. Paul and Rick playing Sprinkle Valley as a practice round together. I don't know. All it does is make me smile. It's as seeing both of these gentlemen start their careers. Paul back in 2007 when I met him, and Rick in 2010 when I met him, and to see so many of their battles and everything that's been the legacy of the two of them combined over all these years, and now to see them on the same team, and then to see something like that practice round, I thought was pretty cool. So,
do you think
really interested to see?
Do you think it's a matter of we're getting to the point where the enemy of my enemy is my friend? Like, both these guys are trying to take down Barella, Hammes, Robinson, Burr, Anton. Like, at this point now, when it was Paul and Ricky at the top of the mountain, they're not quite at the top of the mountain right now. They're at that last stage before the top of the mountain. Just, I think, and I mean, as the saying goes, time heals all wounds, but there is less of a bite, I feel like, these days, because there's not the competition, or I don't say competition or competitiveness. There's not the top finishing between the two. I don't even know a good way to put it. They're not fighting for 1-2 anymore.
Yeah,
at any given week. Now if they do, then you're going to see some teeth come out, which will be fun, but
yeah, maybe that has something to do with it. Like you said, whether it's a little bit of the time, maybe it's a little bit of that. They both know what it does and doesn't matter or mean for their careers, for their primary sponsors, for the continued story of what the two of them have. Whatever the case might be, I'm here for it and can certainly appreciate it. So, and Rick, nothing for nothing, Rick's had the upper hand. As of recent times, thinking basically back to last year, Rick has very much had the upper hand, and it's no secret that Paul has been struggling to be in contention at events, and he's doing exactly that this year, in that he's out there and on these, final day lead cards or within reach of the lead. When it's all said and done. Now, it took an incredible effort during round 3. I think didn't he shoot a 12 or under. 13 under or something like that?
12. He doubled the next closest score. He scorched that course. That was almost an 1100 rated round. It was like 1096 or 1097 when it all came down to it. Like, what if there is something that gives Hall fans a little bit of spark, that's got to be it. You have to look at that and go,
for sure.
Because there were questions last year. Does he still have it in him? Does he care about these elite series like he does the majors? Is there that drive now that he's got a kid, and he's got the foundation, and he's working with Discraft, and he's doing all these other things, there was some question about whether or not he had that motivation. He came on our show a few weeks ago before the season and said he still has it. He comes out the last few weeks and he shows he still has it. It's one thing to say it, yeah, I'm excited for the season. Every player is going to say that. There's no one, I say there's probably no one in the world that's going to come to week one and be like, you know what, I'm good. I don't need to win this year. No, and then he comes out and he proves it, that he still has the drive, he still has the capabilities, he can keep up with these kids on a lot of these courses, especially the wooded courses. Now, I think he's going to, I don't want to say struggle, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him to keep up on some of these longer courses, like your California courses. I'm drawing a blank on the name.
Yeah, you're thinking of Swenson, the longest course on the tour.
Yeah, thank you. I kept thinking, honestly, Terry, I had Stetson stuck in my head because of the dumb hat, and I knew it wasn't Stetson, so I couldn't get out Swenson. Swenson, he might have a problem keeping up with the younger kids on a course like that constantly when they're out driving him by 30, 50, 70 feet on these holes. But I think you put any sort of accuracy requirements on these courses, and especially where it requires these touch shots, these flip up shots, those slow turning shots, he's going to be there. He's going to do it because that's what he's best at. So it's fun to see. Rounding out the top 10. No, we did round out the top 10. I'm sorry. That was
okay.
I'm sorry, we didn't. So Cale LaVisca, Mason Ford, Ezra Robbins. No, that's MVP Austin. What? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the third round. I was like, this isn't right. No, rounding out the top 10, Isaac Robinson and Calvin Heimberg. Just, kind of just sitting there, maintaining. They're, neither of them are probably happy with their finish. But it's nothing to shake a stick at. That's for sure.
Yeah. Our first Elite Plus event of the year. That meant a little bit more payout. That meant that we were going to see 4 rounds. I forget all the exact details, but there was also then more media promise, I'm sure, on the DGN side of things. Things even like a press conference, which aren't going to be happening for a lot of our 3-round events before our 4-round events. They are going to happen. Some things of that nature are all part of it. So congratulations. And as we said, the extra points and with Hamas's consistency in terms of his finishes for the year, I'm just trusting that, as you said, he's out in front. That makes sense, that he's out in front. And early season, late season, any time of season, you're never complaining about leading the Disc Golf Pro Tour point standings. So even if it is early, that might be just enough confidence and momentum that Adam needs to keep on that path and to have, maybe potentially his best season ever. He's off to a good start for it.
On the board, Jason,
mm-hmm.
Actually, it's from our Facebook. Jason Milka says a Stetson hat, $500 to $700 probably. If it's a high quality Stetson hat, you're looking at $500 to $700. Thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate the input on that. I know Terry probably can't see that because it's coming from Facebook. So
no, I can see as it rolls through, but yeah, it looks like Aaron then says 300 to 400. Some other people are saying in that 500-ish neighborhood. Again, I was just kind of curious and no surprise that it's probably has a significant amount of value, just in the hat itself. So absolutely awesome to see a very unique trophy and something that will always be memorable and obviously is very fitting to the actual event as well, with the tie to it. So I will also say that a little bit earlier today, I was going to reach out to him, but then out of nowhere, he reached out to me. Zachary Jensen had reached out to me and asked if I wanted to have him on, if we wanted to talk about Hole 18, the course design, the everything that goes along with it. I said, we'd love to have you tonight. It was actually going to work out perfect if we could have him on at the top of the show at 8. and then have Holland on shortly after him, but he wasn't able to then make it right away tonight. So maybe if we still need to have a further discussion, possibly next week, I'm sure it's going to continue to get beat to death in a million ways until then by all sorts of sides. But I just wanted to put that out there that it just really was a matter of timing that Zachary and I weren't able to connect tonight. I appreciate him reaching out. It's just a matter of, I think if we were, for instance, having this tomorrow night, he would have been able to join. But
and Zach is the course designer. Was he the TD? What exactly? What position does Zach?
Like last year, we talked to Zach last year when he was the tournament director for the United States Women's Disc Golf Championship. He's not listed as the course designer here for this year's event, although obviously very involved. Mint is right there, and Zach is with Mint and is part of that overall scene and everything that has to do with what's going on there. So Zach is probably our single most direct source for all of these conversations.
Do you want to?
So that's what.
Do you want to discuss hole 18 now, or should we wait for Holland to come on?
I'd like to. I'm good with discussing it briefly because, quite frankly, I don't have a lot to say on it. I know the very first thing I want to say on it is when I made the post on Facebook that I did.
Ultra World called you out, by the way.
Oh, did they?
Josh from Ultra World called it the worst post you've ever made. Which I highly doubt because I've seen some dumb posts from you.
Yeah, for starters, it's so funny. I feel like I'm getting flushed just thinking about how stupid that comment is. That's the worst post I've ever made. I know I've made much worse posts. If Josh or anyone else, and funny enough, here's where I'll go with it then. If Josh or anyone else is taking that as me trying to compare the two holes from a purely like strategic standpoint or how the holes play, then either I missed the mark in explaining it or posting it, or people weren't bright enough to get like the higher level view that I was not trying to compare the two holes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was simply trying to state that our fans, even more so than the players, or fans often clamor for things like hole 16 at the European Open, saying we love that drama, we love that excitement, we love that you have to stick that island, we love everything that surrounds the difficulty of that hole. That feels like that is the consensus on that hole, and that's only amplified by everyone losing their shit this last year when we went and played it differently in 2024. Right? The European Open, the rules were changed, and a lot like this weekend, it feel like that dominated the news cycle, is how hole 16 is so different. I'm going to boycott European disc golf and the PDGA and this person and that person. And oh my God, the sky is falling. This is the worst thing on the planet. I mean, how many people had some form of that reaction or drama?
I'm with you.
Then we turn around and have this hole, and a lot of the response was, and again, if you want to argue about how the holes are shaped and designed and the whatever, fine, but we have this hole, and one of the biggest responses to this hole was just simply the fact that we should never have a hole that is so punitive. I'm not ripping on the players. I'm not ripping on how they played it. I'm not ripping on the course design. I'm not ripping on the wood chips or the island. I'm not getting at any of that. I'm just saying what I find humorous or
ironic.
I don't know if ironic or hypocritical is the word, is how we are applying one viewpoint on one hole and then saying the exact opposite so frequently or so much on the other side. That was my entire point of the post. And if you read it as Terry thinks hole 16 looks just like hole shit.
Internet voice.
It's not at all. Yeah, the internet voice. And of course I paused because insert hole 17 at USDGC. And a lot of the same philosophy applies there. I physically watched somebody take a 21 on that particular hole with the way that it was played at one point. The rules have changed, the rules have evolved. The PDGA has had their stance. The United States Disc Golf Championship has had their stance. One isn't even the event isn't even a PDGA rated event. Whatever. So I could have used hole 17 again as a philosophical example of where are we as a community when we're talking about round breakers, career makers or breakers. I was 10 feet away watching Johnny McRae throw away the entire USDGC on hole 17 all those years ago. I could have reached out and hugged him, which I wanted to do at one point. So I've seen this.
Yep.
And again, I'm not arguing about the hay bale should be 9 feet back or the rules should be played. I'm not arguing about any of that. I'm asking for consistency in how we feel about these can produce the results that we have. And if my post wasn't clear enough, or you wanted to twist it into something else, or you're not bright, that's fine too. Or maybe I'm not bright. We can put all of those on the table. I don't care. But it was not about me directly comparing how the holes play. It was so much about the potential results and where do we stand as a community. So take that for what you want.
I think the hole is bad for one reason.
Okay.
The backups it causes. That's to me.
Like, those suck. No matter
they
what.
Suck.
Yeah. No matter any hole on any course that creates
I equate
a significant
the same thing.
Backup often is frustrating.
I think it's Ledgestone hole 16, the 90-degree turn where you have to throw 350 feet straight, and then you turn, you go 300 or 400 feet straight left through a bunch of trees. Or maybe is that before 15? Is it 14 then 15 or 15 then 16?
Are you thinking about 12 at Northwood Black?
Is it 12?
Well, 12 is the one that has like the hour backup on it sometimes, the par 6.
No, that not that one particularly. Although there is a big backup on that one as well. I think I'm thinking 13 or 14 then after that. But like,
or are you thinking Eureka?
No, I'm definitely thinking Northwood Black. It's a hole that goes 300 feet straight ahead, and then you have to make a straight 90-degree turn left, and you go 400 feet, and it's through a bunch of trees. There's not really a great line at it, and it's another. The only reason there's not a backup there, I think, is because you just played hole 12. Like hole 12 is taking forever. So to me, that is my reasoning for there probably needs to be a change, because I look at hole 18 at Sprinkle Valley, and I see a bunch of shots that all of our women are capable of throwing. There's nothing there that on any individual throw that they are unable to do. Part of it is placement. You need to be in the right spot for that final throw in order to, and that's different for everybody. I looked at the way Kristen played it, and I think she played it poorly. Not only does her score show it, but I think she attacked the hole wrong, where she laid up to on the left-hand side, leaving herself with a forehand that she had to throw high over the mound, but low enough under the trees with a headwind. Like, I think that she attacked the hole wrong. Now, whereas if I look at what Holyn tried to do on the second day, she put herself in a perfect position and then shanked the approach into the trees on the right, but it was a backhand power shot. She was trying to throw it out the back of the end zone, so to speak. Like, I thought she attacked the hole properly. And she didn't necessarily execute, unfortunately. I don't believe that there's any individual shot that is not capable. It's 150 from the edge of the OB to the front of the other OB, uphill about 5 to 10 feet. The problem was there was wind. It's a stock shot, but it's not necessarily an easy shot. And I think you attack it by Personally, I think you attack it by you throwing it out the back, and then you take your lump. It might not be the prettiest way to play the hole, but it's probably the smartest way to negate the big numbers. So there are all sorts of ideas on how to improve the hole. Make it a hazard between, instead of OB. You could, rather than playing it as an island, play it as, so to speak, like a river So the island is still an island, but if you get past the OB, even if you're left or right, you get to progress, and it's hazard outside of that. Or my thought originally was play it from the top of the hill. I think that's a better idea. But I will say on that one, I think the TD had said that that's not a great idea, or the course designer, because in inclement weather, that hill gets very slick. The stairs get slick, mud. It's not the best scenario. Now, can that be adjusted? Maybe you get a drop zone tee pad up there that then is better than whatever was in there. There's all sorts of ideas. There's all sorts of solutions. I think we're going to see change. I didn't hate the hole in and of itself, but it did cause backups. We had like an hour-long backup on that hole. It was a difficult finishing hole, and it was tough. Like, it was tough to watch some of the women play it. It was tough to watch some of the men play it. It was just tough all around. So we're going to see a change, no doubt.
Yeah, and I am good with all of the players providing some form of feedback, some kind of constructive criticism to the tournament director. I don't need to provide that because I'm not playing it, and I'm not claiming I'm a world-renowned course designer. So none of that really matters on my side. I think that's, again, where if you want to take my comment or my post and twist it into something, you can twist it into a lot of things. I was not at all going after the players that were playing it, or even the course design. In fact, I don't feel like I even said anything about the hole in that sense. I was just simply talking about what the results can be and what people are expecting and what we want, what we do or don't want to see out of a hole that gets played. I don't want to say, I'll say, like, my opinion, I feel like, is irrelevant on it. I had a couple people send me messages, and like you said, there's a lot of suggestions, and somewhere in there, there's going to be great suggestions that are going to remedy it, fix it, change it. Who knows? That is, again, maybe another question, if we can get Zach on or something like that. I'm sure Holyn has an opinion as to what could get changed. Hannah Macbeth chimed in and said on the board and said Missy Gannon said she doesn't mind a thinker's hole, that the poor scoring could be due to the lack of prep time, and the hole needs to be adjusted regardless because of hole backups, which is something that you just touched on. So clearly, a lot of players struggling on it. That causes this massive backup, and it happens to be on the final hole of the round. Not that a backup's good in any place on the round, but it's very unfortunate if you're, one of the final cards coming through, and there's been a continued, backup.
Build up.
And on the flip side of that, you could say, well, it's only backed up because people are taking such high numbers on it, and it's not you because you haven't played it yet. So I'm sure it will get addressed. People far smarter than me, better course designers, are going to arrive at some conclusion. There's going to be a happy medium that's going to fit within PDGA rules, standards, and guidelines. Something that takes into account, I think what you touched on is perfect in the sense that some people say, well, just do this or just do that. If you're not thinking about weather or things of that nature, I could see how that could
they were saying
certainly
that
impact you.
Between the mound, and Holyn is in our green room, so we'll get her on in a minute. And I love that we've talked about this before, because I'm sure she's sick of talking about it herself. We don't even really have to address it with. But they say in between that bowl can actually flood in heavy rains, which makes sense in Texas, hard ground, all that other stuff. So I guess without any further delay, she seems like she's getting her camera ready. She's sitting there staring at us, waiting for us to go. We're going to bring on to the show. She doesn't have a great nickname, so maybe we'll dub her Heart Attack Holyn Handley.
Wow.
You like to make it close there, Holyn.
Hey, no one likes it when you run away with it, right? Like, people like it close.
Boring.
So true. Boring. You were saying your heartbeat was at like 124 or something, is what you told Nate Perkins. That was a stressful.
That's just a normal day for me, though. That's any round. It's like that every round.
Really? That's interesting.
Round, yeah. It never drops below 110 for the entire round.
Wow. I suppose because if you're playing poorly, you're probably upset, and if you're in the lead, you're nervous in general. So I can understand that your heartbeat is always Always moving along.
So it goes without saying, though, I feel like for the longest time, an easy question to ask is, at what point did you feel comfortable? At what point did you think you had it locked up? And maybe as we're just saying, I mean, is there any point where you're truly like in full control and 100% comfortable and confident out there during that final round?
I felt pretty good the first 5 holes. I felt like I was in a pretty good rhythm of making good choices and executing. Definitely got a little uncomfortable after the struggle in that first wooded stretch. Um, Uncomfortable, but never like spiraling, never losing confidence, and just kind of knowing that like, well, if we can be trading strokes back and forth now, we can still be trading them back and forth later. So there's really no reason to freak out.
And you did. You guys traded strokes for like, was it 12 or 13 straight holes? I'd have to go back and look, but it was you didn't have a lot of pars, and it felt like from hole 6 until 13, you guys exchanged a stroke every single hole, one way or the other. So exciting golf.
What does that pressure feel like? Like when that's happening? Obviously, some in your favor, some not. What does that feel like to you?
I mean, it definitely feels like more tense. Definitely a little more tense. I was definitely like feeling nerves the whole time, but honestly, I feel nerves kind of always, so that's nothing new. But I think I just had to keep kind of like, after I got through the wooded stretch, I kind of laughed and was like, well, I played that really badly. But like, we can reset now that we're back out in the open. And, I had some confidence of knowing how well I can play that back nine, from the day before. So just trying to like stay calm and know that, I came into the round with 6-stroke lead, but like, as long as it's still a lead, we're fine. There's no reason to panic just because now it's a 2-stroke lead, because had I started the day, tied, I would have been stoked with a 2-stroke lead. So there's really no reason to panic, make it worse.
Yeah, certainly a perspective of finding that comfort and then maybe shifting your perspective. But like you said, a 2-stroke lead is still a lead. You kind of just touched on what would have been my next question in knowing how you played that back nine, going perfect on the back to close out in round 3. Does that instill more confidence, or does that kind of sometimes catch up with you in a sense of like, man, how can I do that again? Like, are you putting your own pressure on yourself, knowing that you just played it perfectly in the day before?
Yeah, I definitely had that kind of thought of like, oh, well, how do I follow that up? But the answer is like, you don't actually have to. Like, you don't have to play a perfect 9 generally when you have the lead. And Kristen was playing well, but not playing like so crazy well that it felt like she was like I said, I would make a mistake and then she would make mistakes. So it was kind of back and forth all day. So I was kind of telling myself like, yeah, you don't have to like birdie the whole back 9. And even when I was birdieing the whole back 9, like there are holes back there, or holes throughout the whole course, but on the back 9 as well, like where I'm like, par's fine here. Like we're just trying to focus on, let's get it in the fairway. Let's give ourselves an opportunity. It's not like putting pressure on myself to park every hole or anything like that. So really the goal was just like, well, if you keep the disc in bounds and you give yourself opportunities to birdie, like things will be probably fine.
So now that we're a couple of events into the season, and on the MPO side, we talked about specifically Adam Hammes, obviously having a really good start to his season. What's the assessment? What's the grade that you give yourself now that we're, 2 regular events plus a plus series event in? How do you kind of grade yourself?
I mean, in terms of results, like the results have been great. Anytime I'm on the podium, I'm pretty happy about it. In terms of my play, though, I feel like every round I've played, some parts of my game have been, A to A minus, but some parts of my game have been B to B minus. So I feel like I haven't consistently been at the level I want to be at. So I would probably give myself like a B.
Which is impressive because obviously you won in New Zealand, before the Pro Tour season started, having back-to-back podiums and a win here. I was going to say you must be the points leader. I'm sorry, I haven't looked at the points. You must be leading tour point. Yeah, obviously you have to be.
Probably.
What does that mean? What does that mean so early in the season?
Early, like, there's still so much that can happen. There's still, people are going to have plenty of room to, play really well and have these early tournaments drop off if they had a slow start. So, I mean, I'm not really paying too much attention to the points just yet.
One of the conversations we also had before you joined was just this upcoming weekend, a weekend for some players to take off. You guys are moving from Texas up ultimately into Music City, which obviously you're playing in, and there's good players scattered everywhere, and then there's some players that aren't playing anywhere. What's your focus, and what are you doing this upcoming weekend?
So I'm actually back in Oklahoma at the ranch where we live during the off season. Ella Hansen's here too, so we're hanging out this week. She's going to play my course tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, we're just taking care of, had some doctor's appointments, had some errands and some stuff to take care of. A little mix of rest and then getting back into like a good routine and getting some practice in. And we'll head up to Nashville probably Sunday or so.
Has Ella played the new course yet?
No, not yet.
Oh.
We would have played today. We had to go into Oklahoma City today, so we just played a course up there. But the plan is to play tomorrow, and then we'll probably film something out here for YouTube.
Okay, and that was going to be my next question: whether or not you were going to film the round, Ella's first round on the course, and how that was going to go over. All right, awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun to be excited for.
Yeah. Not to get too far off on a tangent, but what do you expect to see from her as she takes on this course of yours? Like a score?
I think she'll do pretty well. Yeah. I think she'll do great. I mean, I would say like maybe the most similar course on tour is like Jonesboro. So like some elevation, some big shots, but also a few more technical lines. And I mean, it was to challenge my weaknesses. So there's, some flex forehands, there's some tight putter shots, the kind of stuff that I felt like I needed to work in past off seasons. So, I mean, if she's dialed tomorrow, I think she'll do just fine.
And if not, she'll get to hear about it for the rest of the year, so it'll be perfect.
And if not, then she'll be in some thorns because nobody does course maintenance out here. So the rough is rough.
Perfect.
Look for that UDisc course rating from Ella. You're like, oh, gee.
Yeah. 1 star. Is there anything that would have changed your mind regarding this upcoming weekend? And what I mean is, maybe you're struggling and you don't have a great start and you think, hey, I've got stuff I want to work on in a competitive fashion. I go play a Persimmon Ridge or a Jonesboro, or maybe did your mind get changed? Were you thinking you might play this weekend and you're like, hey, I like where I'm at and I'm ready for a weekend off? Has there been any variation in your plans?
No, because this is probably the last time we're going to be home until right before we go to Europe. So, kind of last chance to see Tyler's family, and then my mom's probably going to drive up for an afternoon. So it's kind of always the plan of like, let's see family, and then we've got a few things on the RV that still need to be fixed up. So definitely needed this off week. And I know like things are going to ramp up pretty quick here, so I'm not in a hurry to get too fatigued and burnt out or anything like that.
And that kind of leads to another good question. It feels like there's cycles or phases, maybe is a good word, that I'm seeing a lot of our top pros go through in terms of how they tour, whether that's a camper or whether that's a car and then Airbnb. Some people hoteling it. More people are flying in and out for like spurts.
Yeah.
What's kind of the situation for what you guys are doing?
Yeah, we're still in the same fifth wheel, driving everywhere. I mean, luckily we start in Oklahoma, which is pretty central, so there's a lot of opportunities to kind of come home and see family and rest and stuff. But yeah, we really like the RV. We like having, the same bed, kitchen, living room, internet situation every week. We've got a pretty good system for driving it and getting, from place to place. So yeah, we're pretty happy with it.
So a significant paycheck. It's an Elite Plus event. So it's even bigger than a normal solid finish for the most part. What will you splurge on, if anything? What will be the buy that's like, hey, we got a few extra bucks in our pocket, and probably a little bit of a bonus? What will be the splurge?
I don't know. I don't really something. Honestly, I just paid taxes for last year. We're really just replenishing the bank account at this point.
Okay.
So Uncle Sam took his cut.
Yeah, that's
All right.
that's
So
always
not
a
necessarily
difficult
exciting.
one.
Yeah. Not exciting, but very practical and very adulting of you, because we want to keep you on the tour, and it's hard to play behind some bar somewhere. So makes perfect sense. We have to do our job as much as even just driving and seeing posts about it. I had heard enough of it from the weekend, but we were talking about 18 as you were coming in. Even if it's Cliff Notes version, or elaborate as much as you want, but you won the event, so of course we got to hear your take on 18 at Sprinkle Valley.
Yeah, I mean, 18 was pretty wild. I think we've had a hole that, had that kind of confluence of multiple factors, making it difficult. My biggest negative, I guess, critique of the hole is that the flow was just not great. There's kind of that choke point with people throwing, on average, 2 or 3 people per card having to throw multiple attempts to get onto the green. And I think it caused, like, when I was there around, we were one of 6 cards on the hole at a single time. And so I think from like a time to play the hole perspective, I think it needs some tweaks. But I mean, if we want to like leave it as just a really hard hole where players can blow up on, like, I'm cool with that. I don't have any problem with that. But I do think like there needs to be tweaks to the way that players are able to advance, whether that's moving that OB line up to the top of the stairs and giving players the opportunity to throw from the top of the hill. We got to make some kind of tweak to it. Because like, especially we didn't see it in the tournament, but we did see it earlier in the week. We had a ripping headwind kind of coming through that corridor. And I know when I was coming through, it was like, okay, well, like I can get a disc up there. Like it's hard, but I can do it. But I know like there are going to be some low rated FPO who, if the conditions are like this, just can't complete the hole the way that it is. And that was something like, I think in the Monday qualifier, someone took like a 24. Like that was before they implemented the 4 throws and then you can advance to the island rule, and that was why they did it. I was honestly kind of surprised that it got approved as is, just because of that reason. Like I could tell just looking at it before I even played it, is like, this is going to be a really big problem for backups and for some players completing the hole. And I do think, I love a really hard hole that creates good score separation, but it also kind of didn't matter if you blew up on it. Because like I blew up on it one round, Krista blew up on it twice. I think everybody who got a top 10 blew up on it at some point. So it was almost like blowing up on it didn't really matter, which aside from some temporary psychological damage, didn't really accomplish all that much in terms of scoring separation. So I think, if you maybe made you could tweak that, maybe instead of seeing 90% of the field, taking double bogey or worse, more like, 40% of the field takes double bogey or worse. And then it's more, it's a bigger deal if you are a player or a contender who's part of that group that blows up, if you're seeing more like pars and single bogeys.
Do you feel like, I obviously, again, I'm sure there was a lot of chatter, but among your peers, your fellow FPO competitors, was there any one consensus? Is there any one thought where everyone pretty much said, if just blank happened, or if they just did that, or if we only had, whatever? Is there any silver bullet that you feel like, I think most of the field would get behind this answer? Was there any one of that, or just are the ideas scattered all over?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of suggestions for how the hole should be changed, but I think there was a pretty big consensus that the hole needs to be changed.
Okay.
Very few players were like cool with it being the way that it was. Yeah, I mean, my favorite suggestions were the ones that involve either a drops or an OB line at the top of the hill, because I understand that area kind of floods and it's intended to potentially be a creek. But I did think like the way it was last year, where it was just, OB line along the sides, or maybe having it play as hazard if it's not flooded. I think those are all fine options. But yeah, we got to do something to make that final shot, like if you miss it the first try, that your next attempt is like a little bit easier, just so we're not having 70% of the field throw multiple times and then getting these huge backups.
Yeah, I thought you, honestly, I said this before you jumped on, I thought you had the right attack at the hole, at least. We're not getting up as close as Kristen was and playing it back so you could see the basket, and you had you were able to throw a more power shot at it, even if you didn't necessarily execute that first round. I thought you had the right idea, and I like the way you personally attacked the hole. So, yeah, it's an interesting hole, and I'm sure we'll see some change. I want to talk a little bit about the final round. One particular hole that I think a lot of us were armchair disc golfers. Hole 14. There was an opportunity for you to lay that putt up. It's a dangerous green, as we saw, sloping. What was your thought process behind that behind attacking that hole versus laying up on it?
Yeah, I did think about laying it up, and hindsight's 20/20. I probably should have. That would have been the smart thing to do. But I stood, generally when I'm deciding whether or not to run a putt, I stand at the lie, and I kind of gauge, do I feel like I can make it, or do I feel like I shouldn't run it? And in the moment, I really thought, I was like, I can make this. This is no problem. And then, of course, left it a little low and had to roll away. In hindsight, though, it probably wasn't too early in the round to start thinking more match play, because I think I had a 3-stroke lead at that point, and I wasn't going to lose a stroke, if I had just laid it up. And then knowing that, like, yeah, Kristen will probably birdie the next two, but I'll probably get a birdie look on the next two as well, and just kind of trusting myself to do that. So that'll definitely be something going forward, I think a little bit more about. Because I think back to Ledgestone last year, I had kind of a similar thing happen where on hole 12, where we're throwing kind of downhill, and we have that lake on the right side, and there's like an OB green, and there's that side slope. I had gone OB on the green and had that downhill death putt for bogey, but Haley, who was my closest person to me, had also thrown OB. So it's kind of like I could take a bogey on this hole and not lose a stroke. And I in that moment, I laid up, and it's like, yeah, that was probably a similar situation where it's fine to bogey here because we're not so concerned about the absolute score. We're more concerned about keeping the gap where it is. So yeah, if I had to do it again, I would more strongly consider the layup option for sure.
It's funny because hole 16, the group chat I'm in, a lot of people were yelling like, lay it up on 16. And that one for me, I was like, no, this is a no-brainer. Like, it's too close to lay up. The odds of you hitting the
16,
basket were
16 there was no danger.
But.
Yeah, 16 there was no danger of like a roll away or going into the hazard. It is a trickier putt for me doing like the downhill with a headwind, even when I am that close. But yeah, I mean, I should have made that putt. That should be no problem.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, but overall, you obviously you won the event. It came down to that final hole. The cowboy hat. Where are you going to put the cowboy hat? Have you worn it since you won? It looks a little tight.
It's a little small. It's a little tight. I wish it was one size up. I was maybe going to see if Owen has a size up, and maybe we could switch, because I think her hat was too big for her.
Perfect.
If they're different sizes, maybe we can swap. But I think for now, it'll probably go with my other trophies. Most of them are at my mom's house right now. So it'll probably go in storage, just because can't have it taking up too much room in the rig, and then probably in the off season I'll take it over to her place.
Did you get a nice hat box with it? Does it come with a nice box?
They didn't give me any box. No, don't have a hat box.
Just the hat. Okay. I just think of traveling.
Usually they'll give me usually they give you a trophy box if you remember to ask for it, but I didn't remember to ask for it.
Because we were talking about Music City, and you're going to a place, and whether or not you're going to wear it for karaoke or how that's going to work, it kind of all fits together. Do you have I guess our question is, do you have a go-to karaoke song?
I think the last time I did karaoke was at my friend's bachelorette party, and we did a duet from Wicked because that was kind of our thing.
Okay.
So I'll go with that.
All right. There you go.
That seems good. Looking at your schedule coming up, obviously, you'll be the next one you're doing will be the Music City. Then I see you have an event in Missouri before you head to the KC Wide Open. I guess that's the only thing on your entire schedule that I'm looking at right now that kind of jumps out at me as a little bit surprising. I'm guessing geographically it makes perfect sense, but yeah, maybe explain why that one's on your schedule.
Yeah. So one of Tyler's best friends
St. Charles
lives in
Open.
Yeah, St. Charles Open, which is just outside St. Louis. So Tyler's got a really close friend who lives in St. Louis, and we generally go visit them at least once a year when we're passing through. And I saw that, we had the off week, and that was probably a good opportunity to go visit. And then I was looking at the A tier list, and I'm like, well, they're going to be like playing video games all week, so I may as well go play this A tier that's 15 minutes from his house. So it's really just like, I don't really have anything better to do that week, so I'll go play this A tier.
Will that be in a situation where he's too preoccupied to even come out and caddy for you for the few hours, or like will you be out on your own for that?
He's off the hook for caddy duty. Yeah, I know he's off the hook for caddy duty.
Wow.
Like he does it every other weekend. It's like the one weekend where he wants to go hang with his friends. Like that's only fair.
I love how you sound like, fair or not, you sound like you're giving your employee the weekend off to he has off, he doesn't have to work that weekend. I kind of love that vibe. So yeah, like I said, your schedule looks pretty standard. How do you feel about, I know you just gave yourself the grade for your play. How do you feel about now the shifting in style or courses, or is there a shift, as we're moving out of the the two Texas events now to Music City and then beyond? Where's your head at in terms of the course progression of the year?
Yeah, I mean, really, like the next probably like 5 or 6 events, so kind of the next like chunk of the US events before we go to Europe. I feel really good about. I've had really, really good finishes on all of these courses. I've gotten 2 second place finishes at Music City. I got second place last time we were at Kansas City Wide Open. I was in contention, at the OTB Open last year. I got second at Portland, won Beavers, and second at Preserve. So, I feel like these are all events that I definitely have the potential to win. So feeling really good about it.
Yeah, and I guess I follow that up with, you're still relatively new on the tour, and I think all of us have to remember that. I know you know that, but in the grand scheme of things, you haven't been around nearly as long as someone like Paige, for instance. But is there anywhere you're not comfortable? I mean, you're to the point where you've seen a lot of these tracks more than once. A few exceptions, but you've seen a lot of these tracks more than once.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely some of the more wooded courses where, I haven't always played my best. Like I think of, Idlewild's one where I haven't always played that great. Ledgestone when Northwood Black is involved is not one where I've always played great. So I don't think of it as like, I'm uncomfortable here more so. I think of it as like, okay, I want to get revenge on some of these courses. Because I think, like, I feel like I got revenge on the Texas swing, this past couple of weeks. Because I think 2 years, Waco was one of my worst finishes. My first 2 years on tour was one of my worst, and then last year I think Open at Austin was maybe my worst finish. So yeah, I kind of think of it in terms of like, okay, I should be able to be in contention for the win on any course. So yeah, when I've had bad finishes somewhere, that's kind of, I want revenge.
I was going to say, no better vindication than coming back on a track that you really struggled on, or a place or a property to come back and then win it. What is Discraft and or any other sponsors have in store? Are they doing champion discs or some kind of commemorative disc or something to celebrate the win? Is that just a bonus check? What are some of the things that kind of go along with picking up a victory of this type?
I mean, yeah, they definitely give a really nice bonus for winning. They don't pay out as deep for finishes as some companies do, but they do pay well if you get a top 4 finish, especially if that, is a win. So I get a nice little bonus check there. And we are doing a commemorative disc. I'm sure they'll be announcing it very soon.
Do you have some input on that, right? I assume.
I mean, it's usually
Disc
like
with
a
the
hey,
stamp?
we're doing a commemorative disc. Are you cool with this? And it's just like, yep.
One of many this
Just
year.
sell it. Just sell
one
it.
of
Send me
many
the check.
this year.
I don't care. Just sell it.
So, yep, put it up because usually like they'll go with something that's they've already run, and it's just a matter of getting a stamp and stuff put on it because they want to get it out while it's still fresh in people's minds.
Sweet. Well, I know we don't want to keep you too long. You and I talked about that earlier in the day, and I'm sure, again, probably whole 18 conversation alone you're sick of when it's all said and done, and certainly don't want that to overshadow playing out. I mean, at that point, everyone was still just halfway through. You still had 36 holes for an incredible battle that you had. You still had to persevere and do everything that you did, and nothing should overshadow ultimately the accomplishment. Before we let you go, is there sponsors, shout outs, any other recognition, people, things, whatever the case might be that you want to put out there?
Maybe I can plug our clinics. So Ella and I do women's clinics at most of the tour stops. The next one's going to be in Nashville on April 2nd, 5:30 to 7:30. You can find it on UDisc and register. I mean, that's pretty much it. We're also doing, YouTube practice rounds. So go check those out on YouTube. That's pretty much it.
All right. And your sponsors that you want to shout out?
Oh yeah, we can shout those guys out. This is always fun to get to list everybody in terms. But yeah, so we got Discraft, Squatch, Zuka, Throw Joe's, Fly Factory Discs, Wander Disc Golf. I think that is everybody.
That sounds good to me. All right, Holyn, seriously, we hope that you really take in everything that is this week off, that you enjoy your time with Ella, and then just in general, just soaking it all in, doing whatever rest and recovery, mental or physical, that you might need so that we can see you as a contender again in Nashville in another week and a half or so. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Have a good night. See ya.
Thanks, Holyn.
All right. Bye-bye.
Holyn Handley, your champion from this weekend. Congratulations to her. Plus series action in your back pocket. Not too bad here. And what a start to the season.
Yeah.
And I know I talked about this during the during the first round, during the first event being the Supreme Flight Open, but even during the All-Stars and such, to know that she went over, we talked about it on the show a few months ago, she went over, had the victory over there in New Zealand, was only there for one event, couldn't be convinced to stay longer, but was there for the one event, left there a champion, comes back runner-up at the first two events of the season, and then cards the victory during the this last weekend. It's hard to beat that start.
Yeah, it's a heck of a start. 1-2-2-1. I mean, it's there is a good, I'd say a pretty good pattern there if you wanted to keep that up. I'm sure she'd be happy with that. Yeah,
not finishing off the podium, so to speak, or even having to worry about the lowest spot on the podium right now seems like not a concern at the moment. So we'll see if she can keep things rolling.
Well, let's rattle through some of the other competitors at the Open at Austin. Obviously, as we talked about, Holyn Handley wins this in dramatic fashion, needing to, it sounds funny, she needed the bogey to win on hole 18. She had a good drive, followed it up with a very bad approach where she hit a tree and kicked way right and was left with almost nothing. And just getting up and down, she was able to do it. Kristen, who had what looked to be about an 80 or 90-foot putt to win, hit top basket. Almost was able to take this from her, or at least push it to a playoff, depending on how it went. Holyn was able to lay up like a 15-foot putt or a 20-foot putt in order to secure the win, which is great. So Kristen Lott in second place, along with Owen Scoggins in third place. Owen, who is hurt currently and says that when she throws forehands, she's in pain. And you could see it after a lot of them. She'd sit there and shake her hand and shake her arm.
Is it forehands or backhands? I thought she said backhands.
It's forehands.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, because she'd said she wanted to limit them to like 4 or 5 a day. And it didn't even
instead of like 60.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, you're not wrong. I didn't keep track, but it felt like she threw more than that. It felt like if she thought that was the best shot for her, that's what she threw. And so even hurt, she shoots 1,013 final round. So this is after 3 long days. After the 4th day, she's still lighting it up, shooting a 7 under par. She's unstoppable. Truly believe it. Unstoppable own. I just hope she can stay healthy or rest up, whatever, ice down, whatever she needs. I said at one point, just after the round, get her a bucket full of ice with a few cold ones in there, and she can put her elbow in the ice and, drink her worries away. But ultimately,
elbow. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
One elbow in. Yeah. Lift with the other arm.
Exactly.
Put up the beverage. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
4th place, Silva Saarinen. She shot 973 rated final round, a 2 under. Not bad. Ultimately, she had some ups and downs, as they all do, but she takes 4th place. Deanne Carey shooting a great final round at 5 under to work her way up to 5th place. She was in 9th place going into the final round, so congratulations to Deanne Carey. 6th place, Henna Blomroos. 7th place, Shelley May. 8th place, Katrina Allen. 9th place, Kat Murch. So you got a cat and a cat. Tied with Ella Hansen, Evelina Salonen, and Rebecca Cox. Rebecca, who is continuing, at this point now, it's no longer a surprise. Like, there's no more like, wow, Rebecca Cox is still up. She is in that, I would say, tier 2 FPL player, where any given week she's going to be on the lead card, but you're probably always going to see her in the top 10.
She is.
Yeah. She's
I was just going to say her first 8 tiers this year, she finished runner-up to, I believe, Jordan Lynn's. And then since then, she's gone 8th, and 9th. So, like you said, staying consistent within that top 10 for her.
And Katrina Allen, obviously shooting well. Not the greatest final round, but getting her sea legs back under her, I would say. Like, yeah, there were times that her drives looked really good. Her putting a little sketch, but to be expected. You got to get those, work through some things, and ultimately she's still good. Like, there's no surprise there.
Certainly is.
That's your.
And I was just going to say to follow that up, as you were just talking about Kat Murch, real quick on the FPO side over in Jonesboro this weekend. What an awesome field that we have over there. I don't believe there's much. I believe there was literally, last time I looked, there was only 2 women signed up for the Persimmon Ridge event, whereas it feels like a lot of the women that are kind of in that area, in the Arkansas area, are opting to play at Jonesboro for one reason or another. Obviously, it's going to be a sanctioned event. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or what the case might be, but Kristen Lett, Silva Saarinen, Kat Murch, Rebecca Cox, Katrina Allen, Chantel Badinsky, Maria Oliva, Danny Clyden, Kari Taku, Lexi Marks, Anna Pinter, and Ashley Doby. So 12 women over playing this weekend, but you're talking about having Silva and Kristen, along with Kat Murch and Kat Allen and Rebecca, as your top 5. That's should be a good battle, needless to say. Katrina has found success there. Kristen has, of course, found success. Kat Murch has found success. So 3 of the previous champions that have played there over in Jonesboro. And I'm trying to convince, I'll spoil it now. Maybe we need to apply some pressure. I'm trying to convince Niklas Antala to also play. Him and I have been exchanging messages, so I'm going to have to put a little additional pressure on him. He's thinking about competing on the MPO side. So it would be awesome to have the champ on the MPO side from last weekend playing in Jonesboro this weekend, which ultimately would be on my slightly delayed post-production coverage. So I guess we'll see.
All right. Well, best of luck to you
All
there,
right.
Terry. Hopefully you get that you get the champ to show up and play. Let's talk about just a few other A tiers that were going around that are going
Yep.
on around the country. The St. Patrick's Classic over in Orangevale, California. Winning this in MPO was Josh Anthon, 1,007, 1,041, and 1,070 rated final round. Yeah.
Wow.
Guy still got it. Sam Mingus in second place, tied with Mike Sale, Alexander Lyon. Maybe it's Leon, but I'm going to go with Lyon in fourth place, and Owen Hamilton in fifth. That's your top five in MPO. Down in your FPO, you've got Angelica Sanchez winning this in a playoff with Camille Squeer, Skweir. I'm going to go Squeer. So congratulations. That's your top two cashing in FPO. Moving over to a different event. Where is it? Oh, maybe not. I thought I had one more event here, but maybe not. I must have closed the tab, and I'm not going to open it. So that's it. That's what you get.
All right. Well, if people want to stick around and talk to themselves, they are welcome to. I personally am going to step out and call it a night and wrap it up here on my side. As I said, I'm in Alabama. Going to grab a rental car and head up to the Jonesboro area tomorrow and the next day to take in that action. And super excited to do so. I don't know if anyone has anything else to join. Edwin Stats on the board is saying Antala just said he was on Tour Life. He is in Jonesboro, so he better play. Yeah, he was out playing the course today. Is what Brad Peets, the tournament director, told me, is that he was out playing, and but he says he's still on the fence as to if he will compete in the event. So hopefully he, like I said, makes the decision that he's going to play. Definitely a nice kid. Doc says, do you ever think you will get enough that you can do a fake voice of yours to pronounce names in real time? Just to have like a button so we can just press it and say it instead. People can argue with me if they want about this. I saw it was a discussion on the board. Somebody, of course, had to bring me into it and give me a hard time about it. I have been informed. Take this for whatever the F you guys want. I've been informed from some Estonian friends that it's let, like L-E-T. And if others want to pronounce it another way, I will get confirmation from Silver this weekend and or Kristen, since it's his name. I think he would be best to tell me. In fact, I think I have a Facebook recording of him and I going back and forth a few years ago on how to pronounce his name. So maybe I should dig for that in my messages. But lots of different conversations this weekend as to how it's pronounced. My interpretation with all the conversations that I've had thus far is let, as in like let it go. So we'll see. Obviously, it's got the A and the double T's, blah 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 blah. And if that's not the case, of course I will report back. But as far as I know, when I get in the booth, and especially if I have him on coverage this weekend, we will confirm the pronunciation of his name.
I want, you know how you do ads in between some holes, Terry, in your post-production? I want a 30-second pronunciation of the player's name. Like, hi, I'm Silver Lot.
Uh-huh.
I'm Silver Lot. Like that. Just you have him repeat his name about 6 times, because you're right. I've heard let. I've also heard almost like lut, L-U-T, kind of like lut. Lit. I've heard that, but I don't think that's right.
Lat.
But, yeah, because someone said
Lat.
it's pronounced like almost like the A in apple, but that didn't sound right either. But that was from someone, I don't know. There is our pronunciation, and then there's their pronunciation with their accent, which is difficult.
That too. I mean,
so it's
there's something to be said about we clearly already don't say Kristen like they typically do in Estonia. They say Kristen. We don't enunciate in that sense either, and we very much Americanize it to just being Kristen. I get that. This one we should be able to nail, though.
We can get it.
We're past the old name, and so we'll get it all locked down. But I'm not about to go out and pick a fight or start anything with anyone. I didn't even actually reply to anyone this weekend, but I saw my name was, of course, dragged into the previous pronunciation of her name, and just had to say that she said I was the closest to pronouncing it right back then. So take it for what you will.
Congratulations. Bravo.
All right, guys. Yeah. Oh, the internet. Just send me a message on Signal. We'll be fine. With that, I am going to
on Signal.
Yeah, if you want to chat with me, I'm there.
Yeah,
that's how I do some of my messaging. So
send you
with
some
that,
state
I'm
secrets.
I'm gonna let you guys go, and I want to thank Holyn Handley for joining us. Very gracious of her to carve out some time tonight. Of course, very busy after winning an event, as all of our champions are. Lots of obligations these days, so we genuinely do appreciate. I'm hoping Holyn and I will forever have this incredible bond, as it was so great to partially help discover her all those years ago, and glad that just to see where she's taken her career in this very, very short time that she's been a professional disc golfer is just it's awesome to see. Congratulations to Niklas Antala. Hopefully we'll be covering him and or seeing him again this weekend if all goes well on my end. Looking forward to being in Jonesboro personally, and if there's other events going on in your neck of the woods, you might be able to get out and spot one of your favorite pros playing somewhere throughout the country, and if not, they're getting the much needed break and rest and relaxation that they need before they'll be at Music City. So Johnny, I'm ready to call it. Episode 550. Thank you guys. We're not going to have an after show. Like I said, you guys can talk among yourselves or write down some questions or snarky comments if you got them. We'd love to hear them and give them to us next week when we're back to regular programming. But otherwise, that's been 550 for Johnny V. I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. Thanks again to Holyn Handley. We'll see you next week. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.